Hey everybody, welcome back to our Let's Play of 80 Days with Nerdstalgic. So, as you can see, we're on day 93. We've definitely passed our 80 days, but the game is allowing us to continue our journey. I suppose we have to make it back to London first. So that's basically what we're doing right now. I think we're on a train for New York City, if I remember correctly, and the reason for that is because while you can get to London from Washington as well, we picked up a trombone to sell in New York City. So, okay. I took a few hours to explore, learning possibilities for how we might go forth. Okay, so we're in Atlanta right now. So what's the plan? What's the plan here? Well, I think we're planning on heading to New York City. When does this leave? Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Okay. Cowboy boots sell well there, apparently. Are there any cowboy boots for sale here? Hooded cloak, cotton flower, valuable in New York. Gideon's Bible, interesting. Railway whistle, false passport, shaving kit. Well, let's go back to the plan. Let's close up our suitcase and go back to planning. How many suitcases can we take? 4? What about to New York? 4. Okay. Is this the same Piedmont airline? Okay. Alright, so let's go back here. We can take 4 suitcases. The cotton flower sells well in New York. Looks like we could sell the wax cylinder. Yeah, let's sell it. Anything else we want to buy? We do have space for something. I'm tempted to pick up this Gideon's Bible. You never know. Alright, that looks good to me. Don't see any reason to go to the bank. Maybe we can adjust this. Is there any reason to go to Washington? I don't think that one can't be adjusted. This one can't be adjusted either. Okay, so we missed our window there on adjustment. I did see that it was available earlier. As night fell, I went to stretch my legs and managed to have my pocket picked to the tune of 27 pounds. Great. Alright, well, let's head to Washington on the Piedmont airline, which isn't actually an airline, it's a train. Another short hop aboard the Piedmont to Washington. The countryside rolled past like an England built on a massive scale. Where trees grew, they formed forests, and where fields stretched, they seemed to carpet the whole world. America was clearly big. One could perhaps spend 80 days simply traveling its length and breadth and admiring the view. Who are we talking to? Monsieur Le Garde. Tickets, please. What can you tell me about Washington? Very good. So apparently Washington is so good it takes the words right out of his mouth. Alright, well, we'll change the subject to New York. They're building that thing on the island there. Let's talk about the Statue of Liberty, maybe. Okay. The quickest way to London from here is to go via New York. Well, that's kind of what we're hoping. What more can you tell me about New York? The rumor is you can pick up rare and misprinted stamps in New York that will sell for a fortune in Lisbon. Alright. Play some dominoes. Talk about New York. Well, indeed. Well, indeed. Alright. Enough of that nonsense. At this point, I don't think there's much else that we're going to learn that's going to help us. We kind of know where we're going. The train was as fast as advertised, and we arrived into Washington in short order and without incident. We can complete our valet and sit here for protection against strenuous conditions. I don't think that's necessary. So it arrives on Saturday. Can we negotiate that? Traveling cloak. Require an additional 58. Yeah, let's do it. So it leaves tomorrow at 2 p.m. People were somewhat wary of Monsieur Fogg as we roamed the streets of Washington. Several buildings had not yet been rebuilt since the burning of the city by English forces in 1812. I could understand it, remembering the terrible feeling of being under attack from my own time and during the siege of Paris. Still, not everyone was cold. A few people were out to make a quick buck, as seems to be typical for the treatment of tourists worldwide. "Do you want the full tour, gentlemen?" asked Hank Henberry, a man with smooth dark skin and a fine leather jacket, who strolled up to us. As though the sight of an English gentleman and his battered valet were par to his normal fare. "We are looking to leave as fast as possible." "Leave? Well, where to now?" he smiled. "You haven't seen what this place has to offer." "Indeed we have not," I replied with gentle irony, which I do not think registered on his cheerful face. Hank leant in closer. "Tell me now," he purred. "What's your poison?" "Transportation," I replied steadfastly. "We need the fastest way to London." "Left the gas on, did you?" he joked. "The fastest way I know is the airship from New York, but there's also the route via Ponta Delgada." "Why does an airship route go to Ponta Delgada?" I demanded. "Where even is it?" "How the hell would I know?" he shot back. "Now, do you want to see what this city has to offer, or are you just wasting my time?" "Are we wasting your time?" I spluttered indignantly. "Ack, you fellows are no hope," Hank replied, then took his leave abruptly. "A narrow shave, I suspect," Monsieur Fogg confided, as we stepped away. How unlike him to have an opinion. I think perhaps Monsieur Fogg dislikes Americans as much as they dislike him. Well, we're leaving at 2, I think. We could explore, right? But I think we just go. I don't want to like run the risk of having some kind of random event happen and take even more of our money away. We reboarded the train and settled ourselves in for the short ride back along the coast into New York City. Monsieur Fogg. I choose not to get into discussions about such things. I find all this traveling quite tiring. We may have to borrow money in New York if we can get it. The journey was brief. The Atlantic flashed in the sunshine, beckoning us onwards. We were so close to home. Trombone could earn us well here, indeed. Anything else we can sell? Yeah, that is worth a lot in Lisbon. Yeah, guns valuable in New York City. Imagine that. I think we're gonna have to sell a lot of this stuff. Oh, I think we were supposed to sell that in Washington. Oh well. I'm just selling everything. We're done. We're done. The trip is done. We're done. Very good bargaining, indeed. Alright, so we want to get to London. How much is that going to cost? Too much. Departs in 3 days, though. Can't afford the ticket, let alone anything. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So we need some money. Bank opens on Monday. Maybe I can make some money at the hotel. I was pickpocketed in New York. I waited, intending to pounce upon the departing figure in the crowd, and I brought the little thief to the floor with a clatter. The little thief looked up at me with thick-lashed eyes. I realized belatedly that the thief was a young girl, barely 10. I released my grip slightly, and she took the opportunity to curse in a thick Irish accent and bite me. I cursed volubly, and she paused, an expression of admiration on her grimy face. "What was that last word?" she asked, brown eyes wide. I taught it to her, and she gave me an approving smile. "Use it wisely," I advised. "Of course. What do you take me for?" she exclaimed. I looked down at my bloody arm. Truly, it was a salutary lesson not to let my guard down in strange climes. "I should report you." Her face seemed to melt. "Oh, please, sir," she said, all innocence and politeness. "Don't." "I am a Frenchman at heart." I released her. The girl smiled at me somewhat shiftily, paused for a moment, and then raced away into the crowd. with regrettably my money still in her fist. I returned to the hotel, 20 pounds the poorer, and with nothing to say about this foul city of ne'er-do-wells and hoodlums. Oh, man. I guess I'm like a target for pickpockets. Well, let's explore. Need to find a way to make some money. Or find a different route that's cheaper. Where is this going? Ah, Reykjavik. Spent a few hours in exploration, discovering the options for how we might continue our journey. How much does that cost? It's cheap. Why is that so cheap? You can't take any suitcases with you. Interesting. Neat. Alright. I guess let's look at the market. Nah, nothing to do there. Let's just leave. Icewind, 2 p.m. Reykjavik. The luggage rack has no space for suitcases, but we have none. It's rough skies. We have plenty of health. This is a rocket ship, guys. It's awesome. The Icewind was a pendulously large Savarkar at Modik that wanted to fly 4 or 5 miles high. It had to be hauled down to the docks by a team of 30 or 40 steam winches. It seemed large for a ship traveling to Iceland, but I was informed by a dockhand that most of the space was for cargo, not people. Indeed, space was at such a premium, passengers were allowed no luggage. It seemed overly fastidious, but Monsieur Fogg was, of course, entirely untroubled. We have no further need of luggage, he declared. Well, you know, this is a rare instance where Monsieur Fogg and I were 100% in agreement. I sold everything. Therefore, we signed our visa forms, discarded our luggage. It was soon time to depart. What is your wish, master? Is there something the matter? Money. I am most satisfied about our wallet. We are very, very well provided for. You have been most shrewd with your decisions. Not entirely. Day 96, as I'm sure you're aware, we have been too slow. Very good, except not. Not at all. Conditions about the Icewind were comfortable enough for the 30 or so passengers making the trip. I set about befriending the crew, particularly intrigued to know what the bulky cargo being shipped was, but I gained no answers that first day. Evening crept in on us slowly as we headed north. And my cat is meowing at me. She's ready for food, I think. We have passed the latitude of London, Monsieur Fogg declared, and I wondered if I could detect sadness in his tone. It was most likely due to a sense of inefficiency rather than a desire for home. I suggested trying to bribe the crew to fly due east, and Monsieur Fogg nodded, a worthwhile thing to attempt. I found the fellows I had spoken to previously, but the woman to whom I spoke merely shook her head and laughed. This ship is full of cargo, and that cargo has to be delivered. It's worth all of our salaries twice over. Perhaps we can pay something towards that, I began, but she shook her head. You've got pluck, but I don't think you realize how valuable what we're carrying is. I returned to Monsieur Fogg, mission unaccomplished, but he shrugged. Or Andy shrugged. No matter. He said nothing more, and the reason for his silence was clear enough. I've always wanted to go to Iceland myself. The third day was short, and we arrived into the skies above Reykjavik as the sun was gathering across the water. From the rail, I could see an endless expanse of plains, mountains, and ice-capped wastes, punctuated by intermittent clouds of smoke rising from cracks in the ground. A primeval wilderness, if we had ever seen one. As we landed, I looked back, hoping to catch a sight of our mysterious cargo being unloaded. As I watched, the whole nose of the craft was detached, and something was dragged out by a team of steam carts with winches. Guards stood either side, well armored and armed to the teeth, as though expecting attack from an army. It was hustled onto a wide-gauge train, which puffed away to deliver it elsewhere. Indeed, a puzzle. We will have to explore Reykjavik to find an onward journey. Well, fair enough. New routes discovered. Reykjavik to London. There we go. Reykjavik was a quiet town with few inhabitants, but still had the feeling of a bustling center of commerce. The flag of the Kingdom of Denmark fluttered above the trade hall, declaring this place an outpost. But of all the outposts, colonies, and adjuncts of great nations we had seen, it seemed the most comfortable in its skin. Its comfort most likely derived from the natural hot springs which we tried out in an open area behind a fine fish restaurant. Monsieur Fogg sat at one end and myself at the other, and we breathed in gulps of steam with a deep, satisfying sigh. I rested in silence, companionably enough. Well, how much is it going to cost us? £1,000, we've got it. Departs tomorrow at 8 a.m. Fine, fine. We'll do that. No reason to go to the bank. Before the night ended, I afforded my master every service, ensuring he had fresh tea with the hopes he would have a restorative night. Well, let's go. The Silver Seal. Rough skies, but whatever. Silver Seal was a smaller ship than the Icewind had been, and a Gaelic to boat. How long will it take? I asked the captain as we boarded. 3 days, he replied. Can't be done any faster. 3 days seemed like a very long time, and I could see from Monsieur Fogg's expression that he thought as much as well. Adventurer Fogg expected back shortly. Indeed. The ocean tore along beneath us. I enjoyed talking to no one. There was nothing I needed to know. No one to charm, flatter, or beguile into giving us aid. There was only the wind and the time, and we could control neither. Man, we almost did make it by day 100, which I thought was kind of like ludicrous. Monsieur Fogg looked out of the observation deck windows with perfect calm. Though the wager was lost, and he was no doubt ruined, I watched him closely for fear he might do something drastic. I spent the remaining time watching every possible danger, one eye on the crew, the other on the ship, ready to react to the slightest trouble. But nothing broke the peacefulness of our day. Give Fogg a little bit of health. We tethered at the airship dock in Hyde Park and felt, for the first time in 101 days, the feel of English soil under our shoes. At long last, we had returned to London. It took us 101 days, guys, to make it back. I guess we went through 20-ish cities. I wonder if it'll give us some stats. That'd be cool. I hailed one of the steam carriages idling on the banks of the Serpentine in Hyde Park. To the Reform Club, I instructed. My master shook his head. To Savile Row, he corrected calmly, turned his face to the window. I have most assuredly lost my wager. Soot and fog thickened the yellow light of the gas lamps as we drove through the streets of London. I think I only grasped the truth of the matter then, hearing the words in my master's uninflected tones. We had lost the wager, and by a wide and unmistakable margin, yet I found myself thinking on the wonders and marvels we had seen on our journey. I could not bring myself to regret even a day of it. My master entered his domicile with his habitual tranquility, though he instructed me to leave the window shut up, so that his neighbors would not mark his return. I prepared his supper, and he ate heartily as if he were not utterly ruined. Yes, Monsieur Fogg. In the silence that followed, I counted up the vast sums expended, all the obstacles which we had overcome, and those which had delayed us. You have performed your duties with competence and skill, Passepartout, he said, as though remarking upon the weather. But more importantly, you have circumnavigated the globe as my companion. Despite the unfortunate protraction of our journey, he added, it was no small feat. And what will you do now, monsieur? I asked, trying to emulate my master's coolness and aplomb. My course, Passepartout, Monsieur Fogg interjected smoothly, is fully decided upon. We must attempt the journey around the world once more. Once more? I cried. Indeed, Monsieur Fogg said, implacably, an intent light glinting in his cold blue eyes. But this time, forewarned and better prepared, we will succeed. Yes, monsieur. I nodded smartly. Monsieur Fogg consulted his ledger and tapped his pen. Perhaps this time, he said thoughtfully, a more southerly route. Adventurer Phileas Fogg loses wager. Fogg blames Indian rebels destroying train line in Chittagong, capture by Kali cultists, and arrest in Vladivostok for 101 day journey. And I would agree, all of those things sucked. We visited 29 out of 196 cities, traveled 30,000 miles, traveled mostly in steamships. We were 24,000 pounds in debt. Nice. Nice, nice. Character ended up being zestful. A passionate, zestful, remarkable man. Comfortable relations. Nice. Well, that was fun. Right? I had fun. It's time to do it again. So I am going to do another series of 80 days. Not sure if I'm going to put it out the exact day following. I don't know. Probably will. I'll probably start a new series tomorrow with the game. So, and maybe we'll try a more southerly route this time instead of trying to go like kind of straight across. Maybe it would be better to dip down into Africa. I don't know. We'll see. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this Let's Play series, and that if anything, maybe it's helped you to not make the same mistakes I made. I'll see you next time. Okay.